Hey everyone, today we're going to explore a really beautiful Hindu ritual, one that for so many people represents a deep connection to family, to faith, and to their own heritage, the Satyanarayana Puja. To really get why this ritual matters so much, let's start with this personal story. This quote, wow, it captures a feeling I think many of us can relate to, right? Having this connection to our heritage that can sometimes feel a little distant or just hard to explain in our day-to-day lives. And that really brings up a much bigger question, one we're going to dig into today. How did these ancient traditions, with all their complex symbols and stories, still find real meaning for us in the world today? All right, let's dive in. Before we get into the specifics of this one particular ritual, we kind of need to understand the universal human need that, well, all rituals seem to fulfill. I mean, just think about it for a second. Every culture, all throughout history, has rituals. And at their very core, they're how we find a little order in all the chaos. They're how we seek happiness, how we cope with tough times, and how we celebrate those huge moments that make up a life. So, now let's see how this universal idea takes shape in a very specific Hindu practice. This practice is called a puja. And what is it really? Well, you can think of it as a form of worship, an act of reverence where the whole goal is to connect with the divine through a mix of prayers, offerings, and just personal devotion. What's so incredible about a puja is how it basically creates this whole miniature symbolic universe right there in front of you. Everyday objects get filled with this profound meaning. The pitcher, it's not just a container, it actually represents the 5 foundational elements of life itself. The grains aren't just food, they symbolize our hope for prosperity. The lamp is so much more than light, it's the search for knowledge. And even a simple betel nut represents the potential for our future success to grow. Okay, so now that we've got the basics of a puja down, let's really focus in on the specific ceremony we're exploring today, which is all dedicated to one particular deity. Right at the very center of this puja is the deity known as Satyanarayana. And this is a form of Lord Vishnu, one of the principal deities of Hinduism, often called the preserver. The name Satyanarayana itself reveals the whole point of the ceremony. It's a combination of 2 really powerful Sanskrit words. You've got Satya, which means truth and reality, and then you have Narayana, another name for Vishnu that translates to the path for humanity. So when you put it all together, you realize this is, at its heart, a worship of truth as the ultimate divine guide. It's this idea that in a world full of challenges, holding on to what's true and honest is the highest form of devotion you can have. But a puja is way more than just symbols and chants. At its very core, it's about the stories that teach us how to live. So, central to this particular puja are 5 moral stories, or katha. Each one illustrates a simple but really powerful lesson. Good things come from sincere devotion and from keeping your promises, while forgetting those promises can lead to some hard times. Let's just take one of the most famous of these stories as an example. It starts with a poor woodcutter. He's tired, he's thirsty, and he sees a wealthy person performing the puja. He's so inspired he vows to do the exact same thing with whatever little money he makes that day. So what happens? That day, he miraculously earns 4 times his usual income. And, true to his word, he performs the puja with great faith. The result? His devotion is rewarded with wealth, with happiness, and with peace in the afterlife. It's a really clear story about faith and integrity. Now, here's another really fascinating layer to this ritual. It's how it connects your personal devotion to, the entire cosmos. The puja also includes reverence for what's called the Navagraha, the 9 primary cosmic influencers in Hindu astrology. By honoring them, the ritual is basically acknowledging that our lives are influenced by forces far, far beyond our control. So you might be wondering, what are these invisible nodes? That's a great question. Rahu and Ketu aren't physical planets you can see in a telescope. They are actually the 2 precise points in space where the moon's orbit crosses the sun's path, from our perspective here on Earth. These are the powerful cosmic points where eclipses happen, and those moments have been seen as deeply significant for thousands of years. So, we've explored the symbols, we've heard the stories, we've even looked at the cosmology of this puja. Now let's bring it all back to that very human question we started with. And here's how that story we started with ends. The same person who once felt so disconnected, well, they found themselves on a totally new path. They moved from just kind of accepting their heritage to actively trying to understand it. And you know how that journey began? It was simple. They just started asking questions.
And that beautifully sums up why these ancient traditions are still around. They aren't just some dusty old rulebook to be followed blindly. For millions of people, taking part in a ritual like the Satyanarayana Puja is a living, breathing link to their family, it's a touchstone for their identity, and it's a way to feel like they're part of a long and rich cultural history. So, we've seen how just one single tradition can hold so many layers of meaning. And that kind of invites us to look at our own lives and ask a pretty powerful question. What traditions connect you to your past?